Every year, over 2,300 children are reported missing in the United States. Most are found within hours, some within days, but a small number are never seen again. Their names fade from headlines, their faces disappear from posters, and the mystery of their absence becomes an invisible wound in the lives of those left behind. But what if one of those missing children left behind clues? What if her voice, buried for decades, was finally heard? And what if, 40 years after her disappearance, the truth was more terrifying than anyone ever imagined? This is the story of Emily Grace Hartman. She was only 15 years old when she vanished in 1981. And 4 decades later, a single DNA match would crack open a case that had haunted a town, tormented a family, and eventually uncovered a darkness far deeper than anyone ever guessed. Kindly hit the subscribe button and sit back while I unravel this epic crime for you. Maple Hollow, Pennsylvania, 1981. A picturesque town tucked between forested hills and winding creeks. The kind of place where neighbors knew each other by name and doors were left unlocked at night. It was a quiet, unassuming town that seemed untouched by the harshness of the outside world. But that illusion shattered on November 3rd, 1981, when Emily Hartman didn't come home. Emily was known as a quiet, thoughtful girl with auburn hair and hazel eyes. She was artistic, with a gift for sketching lifelike portraits in her school notebook. Her teachers called her gentle and focused. Her friends described her as observant, kind, and a little reserved. That day, she stayed after school to attend her art club meeting. She left the school at 5:15 p.m., waved goodbye to her best friend Jenna, and walked toward home carrying her sketch pad under her arm. She was never seen again. Her parents, George and Linda Hartman, called the police that evening. They contacted her friends. They walked the streets with flashlights. George drove through every back road in Maple Hollow. By midnight, search parties were already canvassing the woods. Flyers were printed. Phone calls were made. The next day, news spread through the school, then the town, and then the county. Emily had vanished. The police, led by veteran officer Charles Rowley, launched a full investigation. They checked the school premises, nearby woods and surrounding roads. Witnesses offered conflicting reports. One claimed to have seen a beige pickup truck idling near the school parking lot. Another claimed she spotted Emily walking near the old mill at the edge of town. Yet no concrete evidence materialized. No signs of struggle, no dropped items, no trail. The days turned into weeks. Volunteers grew tired, tips dried up, and soon Maple Hollow was left with nothing but missing posters and silence. Emily's disappearance cast a shadow over the town. Children were walked to school. Strangers were viewed with suspicion. Families installed locks, and the Hartman household slowly crumbled under the weight of unanswered questions. Linda stopped sleeping through the night. George left his job at the auto shop. Emily's 3 older siblings grew quieter. Jenna dropped out of the art club. And the room where Emily once slept was frozen in time. Her sketch pad lay on the desk. Her coat still hung on the hook behind the door. Her school shoes sat by the edge of the bed. The case went cold. In the years that followed, there were moments of false hope. A girl resembling Emily was found in Buffalo, New York. A psychic claimed she saw visions of Emily in a cabin. A drifter arrested in Ohio said he remembered the name Hartman, but each lead evaporated. Then, in 2021, a routine DNA upload to a popular ancestry website changed everything. Detective Elise Navarro, a cold case investigator with a reputation for solving long-forgotten files, received an alert. A partial DNA match linked to a woman named Rachel Dunham, living in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Rachel had recently submitted her DNA to learn more about her heritage. What she didn't know was that her biological markers linked her to Linda Hartman, Emily's mother. Navarro contacted Rachel. She learned Rachel was adopted as a baby. She had no records of her birth parents. She'd always been curious, but never imagined her DNA would be the key to unlocking a mystery. A second, more advanced test confirmed the truth. Rachel Dunham was the daughter of Emily Hartman. This revelation reopened the entire investigation. Navarro began poring through the original files, looking for what had been missed. One name kept appearing: Michael Caldwell, a reclusive handyman and war veteran who had once lived on the outskirts of town. He was questioned in 1981 but dismissed due to lack of evidence. But Rachel's existence suggested Emily had survived for some time after her disappearance. The question now was where. Navarro found a reference in an old report to a cabin near Lake Willow, a place Caldwell was known to frequent during the fall and winter. The cabin had never been searched. A team was dispatched. The cabin, now abandoned and decaying, stood hidden beneath overgrowth. Inside, beneath loose floorboards, investigators found a rusted metal box. Inside were 3 items: a red sweater with a torn sleeve, a silver necklace engraved with the letter E, and a sketch pad signed in the bottom corner, Emily. Nearby, buried in a shallow grave, were human remains. DNA confirmed what the town had feared for 40 years. Emily Hartman had died in that cabin. But the story didn't end there. Michael Caldwell, now in his 70s and living in Michigan, was arrested. In taped interviews, he confessed to keeping Emily in the cabin for several months. He claimed she ran away from home and came to him for help. He admitted she gave birth to a child, Rachel. And he confessed that Emily began to bleed after the birth. Panicked, he left to find help. When he returned, he said she was gone. That version of events collapsed when Emily's body was found just feet from the cabin door. Caldwell was charged with kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, negligent homicide, and obstruction. He stood trial in 2022. The courtroom was filled with media, old neighbors, and Emily's surviving family. But the most powerful moment came when Rachel Dunham took the stand. She spoke of growing up without knowing where she came from, of learning, at age 28, that she was the daughter of a missing girl, of imagining her mother alone, afraid and silenced, and of her decision to speak because Emily could not. Caldwell was convicted on all counts and sentenced to life in prison. But something still didn't sit right with Navarro. As she examined Caldwell's personal belongings, she discovered a false-bottom drawer in an old toolbox. Inside was a leather-bound ledger, faded pages, names, initials, dates, and a strange pattern. November 3rd, 1981, E.H. March 12th, 1982, R.D. Then more initials, more dates. Navarro cross-referenced the information with missing persons reports from surrounding counties. 3 other names matched the timeline: Martha Breen, Sasha Keller, and Denise Maddox. All had gone missing between 1978 and 1983. All young girls, all near towns where Caldwell had worked. Caldwell, it appeared, wasn't just a disturbed loner. He was a serial predator. The ledger also listed another set of initials. G.H. Navarro discovered that Gerald Hennessy, a security contractor who briefly worked near Emily's school, had been roommates with Caldwell in 1981. Hennessy had changed his name to Samuel Denton and moved to Utah. He was arrested. Under interrogation, he confessed to delivering Emily to Caldwell. He said Caldwell told him she was a troubled niece. He was paid $200. Navarro now had evidence of a pattern, a network, and a conspiracy that had remained buried for 4 decades. She dug deeper, and then she found Redstone Quarry. An old shipping code appeared next to one of the final ledger entries. Redstone had once been used as a dumping ground for industrial waste, and apparently something else. Investigators excavated beneath the quarry. They uncovered a sealed concrete chamber. Inside were personal items, fragments of clothing, and remains. DNA testing confirmed 4 previously unidentified victims. The world finally saw the scope of Caldwell's crimes. Rachel Dunham created the Emily Hartman Foundation. She authored a best-selling memoir. She helped pass the Hartman Law, which funds cold case units and expands DNA testing nationwide. And then, in 2023, she received a package in the mail. Inside was a cassette tape labeled May 1982. Her voice. Rachel found a player, pressed play. A faint, crackling voice filled the room. If anyone ever hears this, my name is Emily Hartman. I'm in a cabin near a quarry. I'm alive. Please, I just want to go home. Rachel wept. It was the first time she ever heard her mother's voice, and it would not be the last revelation. In the final pages of Caldwell's ledger was a final entry. May 5th, 1985, C.W. Navarro searched every database. She found an orphanage intake form from 1986. A 5-year-old girl found wandering near a train yard. Name, Charlotte Willow. No records, no relatives. The intake officer noted she spoke of a cabin, a red-haired woman, and crayons. DNA confirmed it. Charlotte was Emily's second child. Rachel met her half-sister in the memorial garden built on the site of the old cabin. They embraced, and together they lit a candle. But there was one more twist. Navarro received a confidential call from a retired federal agent who had seen the ledger on the news. He claimed Caldwell's initials appeared in a classified investigation into a suspected trafficking ring dismantled in the late 1980s. A second ledger, almost identical in format, had been recovered from a safe house in Illinois. And one of the names listed in both ledgers? Rachel Dunham. Navarro is still investigating what that could mean. Was Rachel meant to be retrieved? Or was someone else protecting her all along? Emily's story may have ended, but the darkness she uncovered has only just begun to surface. They're still out there. Navarro knew the meaning behind Rowley's words. This wasn't just about Emily. It wasn't just about Maple Hollow. There was an active, organized network that had operated in silence for decades, possibly with powerful connections shielding it from exposure. Within weeks of the Redstone Quarry discovery, a quiet investigation began targeting former law enforcement, judges, contractors, and local business owners with ties to Rowley and Caldwell. Federal agents unearthed decades-old financial records pointing to shell companies and offshore accounts. One company in particular stood out, Norrell Industries, a now-defunct construction firm that had overseen public works projects across rural Pennsylvania during the 1970s and 1980s. Norrell wasn't just a builder, it was a front. Navarro's team discovered a trove of internal memos and invoices that never matched construction records. Certain job sites aligned too closely with missing persons reports. Portable offices are placed in remote areas, temporary trailers left behind. Evidence disposal units are listed as equipment rentals. Navarro requested the exhumation of the ground beneath a defunct Norrell construction site west of Allentown. What they found was horrific, an underground vault reinforced in concrete and soundproofed. Inside were personal items, children's clothing, and crude carvings etched into the walls. One phrase repeated in multiple places: "Nobody listens to the quiet ones." Navarro recognized the handwriting from Emily's sketchbook. The vault wasn't just a storage room. It had once been a holding cell. Back in Maple Hollow, Rachel Dunham received a second anonymous package. This one wasn't a tape. It was a letter. No return address. Inside was a photograph of her mother, Emily, smiling, holding a newborn child wrapped in a faded blue blanket. Written on the back, "She fought longer than you know." Forensics confirmed the photo was authentic, the ink dated to 1982. Rachel stared at the photo for hours. Her mother was alive far longer than anyone imagined. She may have even escaped. And if she escaped, why didn't she return home? A third ledger, recovered from a burned cabin site in West Virginia, confirmed what Navarro had long feared. Emily may have attempted to expose the operation, and she paid the price for it. This ledger included entries noting leak risk, asset compromised. The name Hartman was written in red. Emily had become a threat, not just a captive, which meant someone, maybe multiple people, had been responsible for ensuring she was silenced permanently. Navarro quietly reopened old cases previously closed as suicides or runaways. A pattern began to emerge. Witnesses who had once lived in proximity to Caldwell or Rowley had disappeared. One former Maple Hollow deputy had died in a suspicious house fire in 1989. Another, a social worker who had flagged inconsistencies in Rachel's adoption, was found drowned in a river in 1993. This wasn't random. This was a cleanup. Rachel knew now that her survival had come at a price. She returned to Redstone Quarry one final time, not for closure, but for truth. Beneath the garden, within the concrete foundation, she left something behind, a small sculpture made from broken slate and glass. It wasn't signed. It bore no name, just a single word: witness. Emily Hartman's story was no longer just a mystery. It was a reckoning, and the storm she unleashed was only beginning to gather. Because the real question wasn't who killed Emily Hartman. It was how many more Emilys were out there, still waiting to be found. Indicate in the comment section the country you are watching from, and also share your input about the mysterious story of Emily. Also hit the subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next epic, mysterious story.